Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. So this morning I'll be doing some readings on breath meditation. And this first reading is from a collection of Ajahn Lee Dhammadharo's teachings put together by Ajahn Geoff, who translated them. And begins on page 17. And this method is, what I'm about to read is actually the method that people at Wat Metta, are the method of meditation that they use at Wat Metta. So just think of it, present this sort of as like another option. Maybe can be different useful to take different approaches to breath meditation to keep things interesting, to keep oneself engaged. So I'll read this out. It says Ajahn Lee Dhammadharo. Method 2. There are 7 basic steps. 1. Start out with 3 or 7 long in and out breaths, thinking Bud with the in-breath and Do with the out. Keep the meditation syllable as long as the breath. 2. Be clearly aware of each in and out breath. 3. Observe the breath as it goes in and out, noticing whether it's comfortable or uncomfortable, broad or narrow, obstructed or free-flowing, fast or slow, short or long, warm or cool. If the breath does not feel comfortable, adjust it until it does. For instance, if breathing in long and out long is uncomfortable, try breathing in short and out short. As soon as you find that your breathing feels comfortable, let this comfortable breath sensation spread to the different parts of the body. To begin with, inhale the breath sensation at the base of the skull and let it flow all the way down the spine. Then, if you are male, let it spread down your right leg to the sole of your foot, to the ends of your toes, and out into the air. Inhale the breath sensation at the base of the skull again and let it spread down your spine, down your left leg to the ends of your toes, and out into the air. If you are female, begin with the left side first, because the male and female nervous systems are different. Then let the breath from the base of the skull spread down over both shoulders, past your elbows and wrists, to the tips of your fingers and out into the air. Let the breath at the base of the throat spread down the central nerve at the front of the body, past the lungs and liver, all the way down to the bladder and colon. Inhale the breath right at the middle of the chest and let it go all the way down to your intestines. Let all these breath sensations spread so that they connect and flow together, and you'll feel a greatly improved sense of well-being. 4. Learn 4 ways of adjusting the breath. A. In long and out long. B. In long and out short. C. In short and out long. D. In short and out short. Breathe whichever way is most comfortable for you. Or better yet, learn to breathe comfortably all 4 ways, because your physical condition and your breath are always changing. 5. Become acquainted with the basis or focal points for the mind, the resting spots of the breath, and center your awareness on whichever one seems most comfortable. A few of these bases are the tip of the nose, the middle of the head, the palate, the base of the throat, the breastbone or the tip of the sternum, the navel or point just above it. If you suffer from frequent headaches or nervous problems, don't focus on any spot above the base of the throat, and don't try to force the breath or put yourself into a trance. Breathe freely and naturally. Let the mind be at ease with the breath, but not to the point where it slips away. 6. Spread your awareness, your sense of conscious feeling throughout the entire body. 7. Unite the breath sensations throughout the body, letting them flow together comfortably, keeping your awareness as broad as possible. Once you're fully aware of the aspects of the breath you already know in your body, you'll come to know all sorts of other aspects as well. The breath, by its nature, has many facets. Breath sensations flowing in the nerves, those flowing around and about the nerves, and those spreading from the nerves to every pore. Okay, it goes on, but I'll stop there. And I'll be reading now from Meditations 9, which is a collection of Ajahn Geoff talks. And title of this one is What is One? And it was given July 13th, 2017. And the title comes from catechism called the Novices Questions. And there's a question, what is one? And the answer is, all beings subsist on food. And I will begin partway through the talk. So while we're on the path, we need food. And concentration is the prime food we use. Otherwise, if we don't have this food, we're going to go off nibbling on all kinds of other things. All the different members in the committee of your mind have their ideas about what would be good dinner tonight, what the food should be, how it should be fixed. And a lot of the discussion in your mind is about how you're going to feed. So when you learn how to meditate and get the mind into a state of well-being, finding an object you like, learning how to maximize the sense of pleasure through your directed thought and evaluation, you're adding a new item to the menu. And you want to learn how to develop a taste for this. That means, for instance, when you're working with the breath, try to breathe in a way that feels really, really satisfying. It's not just in, out, in, out, in, out. Ask yourself, what are the most sensitive parts in the body right now? Can you breathe for their sake? And what kind of breathing would feel good for them? You may have a personal preference for longer breathing, but that particular part in your body might like shorter breathing. So pay attention to what it needs. And then, when you've satisfied that part of the body, look for other parts of the body that are especially sensitive and see if you can satisfy them too. The more you can hit your sensitivities like this, the more satisfying the food of concentration will be. Then you can use it to deal with other issues as they come up, the other proposals for what you want to feed on right now. If there are sensual desires coming up in the mind, one of the first ways of dealing with them is to notice when the desire comes. Where do you feel the tension in the body? Often there's a tension in the back of the hands. Well, breathe in a way that feels really good in the back of the hands, any place where there's tension developing. That way, as part of your negotiations with the members of the committee, you say, see, here's a better food. It's right here, no trouble at all. Whereas the food of sensual desire can cause a lot of trouble. It's the same with anger. If you're quick to get angry about things, you have to be quick in learning how to feed the mind and feed the body with the sense of well-being that comes from concentration. Otherwise, you start feeding on the anger and it ends up harming you, harming other people. It's like the kind of food that may be good as you eat it, but it's going to cause trouble further down in your digestive tract. Sleepiness, torpor, that's another kind of food, one that we really go for. In some cases, the body really does need to rest, but in a lot of cases, it's just creating one more issue unnecessarily. Something interesting may be coming up in the mind, something, however, that one member of the committee does not want to be revealed, and so it makes you sleepy. Or just plain old laziness comes in and you latch on to any sign in the body, any sign in the mind that you're getting sleepy, and make that an excuse to stop. In cases like that, the best kind of food for you is good heavy breathing, deep breathing, whatever breathing you find energizing. It's the opposite with restlessness and anxiety. The mind has no place where it can settle down in the present moment, so it goes hunting outside for anything, whatever. When it's anxious about things, it can say, look, I have to worry about this. If I don't worry about this, I won't be prepared. I won't be protected. This is where the food of concentration on its own is often not enough. You have to supplement it with the food of discernment, which tells you that whatever is going to happen in the future, you don't really know the details of the danger ahead of you. But you do know that whatever the dangers, expected or unexpected, you're going to need a lot of discernment. You're going to need a lot of alertness. You're going to need a lot of concentration, patience, endurance, all these good qualities to see you through. And this is how you develop them, by meditating, not by sitting here worrying. And finally, there's uncertainty. The mind can gorge itself on that. One reason might be the part of the mind that does not want to practice, does not want to give up its desires, its cravings. Another reason might be a lack of confidence in yourself. In the first case, you've got to pry around and see, why would I not want to find true happiness? After all, this is a common desire among all your committee members. How to be happy. What would make you happy? And they hold on to their ideas of what would make you happy. So you've got to point out to them the drawbacks of those ideas. Desire for wealth, desire for power. These things can bring a lot of suffering and harm in their wake. And here the Buddha is offering you a totally harmless kind of food, a totally harmless kind of pleasure. Do you really love yourself? If you do, you'd go for the harmless. You'd avoid any kind of harm. As for lack of confidence in yourself, ask yourself, can I be with this breath? Well, yes. How about this breath? Yes. In the beginning, content with yourself with small victories. As the Buddha said, even just a finger snap of the desire to be skillful is, in and of itself, meritorious. Sometimes we're even afraid to want the path because we're afraid that we'd be committed to more than we can handle, and the part of the mind that's not ready to be committed keeps pulling you back. But you can keep reminding yourself, I'm not totally committed yet, I just want to think this thought, that it would be really good to find a path that puts an end to suffering, to find a path that I am capable of following, and have some confidence in myself. Learn how to feed off these small victories so that they get larger. And turn your attention back to the breath so that you have something even better to feed on. Keep looking for those sensitive spots inside. Try to nourish them with the breath so that you associate the practice of concentration with a sense of real, visceral well-being. That way, the mind will be more and more inclined to want to go in this direction. It's as when you're trying to change your diet for the body. Sometimes you try a change from all the greasy bad food that you've been enjoying to something healthy, and a part of the mind resists. It likes the grease, it likes the sugar, it likes the salt. But if you learn how to fix your health food really well, then you begin to realize, I actually feel better this way, and it tastes good. So you've got to learn how to be a good cook of your breath. Show some imagination in how you deal with the breath, like that image in the canon of the wise cook who notices what his master likes, whether it's salty or sweet or alkaline, bland, spicy. Try to figure out what your mind and body would like to enjoy right now, would like to feed off of right now, and see what you can do with the breath to provide that. A similar principle applies with the other meditation topics. If you're doing Buddho, think of the whole body as being energized by the word Buddho. As I was saying today, think of every cell in your body going Buddho, Buddho together, so that it's not just a mechanical exercise. It's much more organic. You're feeding the mind. You're feeding the body. That way, you've got something good to offer when parts of the mind want to go off and have a midnight snack, gobble down some junk food. You say, look, I have something better right here, right now, and it's not going to cause trouble tomorrow morning. I'm not going to have any diarrhea from this, any digestive illness. This is food that's good all the way, good from your mouth all the way through your system. That way, you have another answer to that question of what is one. You have a mind that's one, with one object, and it's happy to be there, because it finds that this is the best food there is. So that concludes the talk. So, pretty short reading. Any comments, reflections, or questions for the senior monk about the readings, or maybe about breath meditation?
Or I'm curious if you've worked at all with this method of breath meditation. I've experimented with it a bit, and sometimes I find it useful. Sometimes I find it not so useful. Sometimes I find myself kind of getting more tense and constricted, and I don't know, I guess it just seems a little complicated to me.
Yeah, I mean, because I think that's why it's helpful to have a few different methods. It isn't as if there's one absolutely perfect ideal method where if you just did that, you'd be completely peaceful and dazzling wisdom would shine forth. And it's you have to learn how to work with different techniques and methods, and have a bit of a repertoire of things to fall back on. And because sometimes you need something for the mind to actually structure itself around, and this is really helpful because it's got some activity that you can engage the mind with. You can get it exploring sensation and feeling, and along with the breath, so that it's engaged with an object, and at other times it's helpful to learn how to use the meditation so that it's letting go, so that it's spacious, so that there's a sense of ease coming through. So it's just learning how to use these different methods and different techniques, and learning their varying benefits and drawbacks, and particularly for oneself. But that's certainly the case. That it can end up getting a bit too busy, but at other times it's sort of, well, the mind's already busy, so it's like it's helpful to engage it in a skillful way. Or the mind is dull and it needs to be doing something. Sort of your mind is kind of not so energetic or not so, and then you go to just stay with the breath and keep it really simple, and then pretty soon your head's on the floor because you've fallen asleep. So it's just getting that balance in the practice. I think it's also helpful in terms of connecting the body and the mind, because sometimes our attempts at concentration or at meditation tend to be a bit, say, sometimes idealistic in trying to just isolate the mind. And it's much more important, I think, to get a real clear sense of, okay, this is a whole body-mind project that we're engaged in.
Just thinking when I was listening to the reading, a lot of times, when the Buddha's talking about nutriment, he tends to be talking about painful similes of this is leading to aging, sickness, and death. And so it's just...
You mean like the flayed cow?
Eating your son's flesh? Yeah. Drinking his spears 3 times a day. And it seems like that was kind of...
Well, it's definitely got your attention.
Yeah. It was kind of encouraging, or at least encouraging the feeding, or at least he seemed to be using it in a very different way than I've seen it used.
Well, I mean, I think one of the things is the of course the Buddha. I mean, the Buddha is quite explicit in using dukkha as your sort of your avenue in, because we tend to be a bit more motivated to or dukkha tends to get our attention better than the kind of the pleasant and the we're already hardwired to look for sort of gratification and pleasure, and so that but within that it's helpful to sort of look, well, what's the shadow side of that, so that. But having said that, of course, the Buddha points to. I mean, we just spent 2 months talking about happiness, and much of that was very directly drawing on the explicit teachings that the Buddha gave on cultivation of happiness.
Yeah, no, I said that was the thing, because it was like definitely Buddhist encouraging developing samadhi.
Yeah.
It was just like the feeding kind of metaphor in the context of that felt like it was kind of, it was differently than how the Buddha talks about the like kind of nutriment and what is kind of perpetuating the process of existence in the mind.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think again, I mean, the Buddha is trying to really highlight, because we are seeking nutriment, we're seeking nourishment in something all the time. We're looking to be, nourished and nurtured by something all the time. It's just natural. And what are the consequences of that? And it's usually sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair. I mean, it's we keep falling for the same old, pretty basic delusions. So just to having that, that waking up to that and realizing that there is an option, and so the Buddha. I mean, I think that's one of the things that in terms of a religious and spiritual path. I mean, he doesn't sugarcoat it and put it up into just believe in me and you'll just float on clouds of bliss and everything will be fine. You'll be happy forever. I mean, no, be careful. Be really, really careful, because that's what the mind does. It seeks being, becoming, nourishment, nurturing in things that come back and bite us.
Also, just to note that, I can't remember exactly where it was in the Sangha, but the nourishments and denourishments for the hindrances and the 7 factors of enlightenment are like kind of side by side.
Oh, yeah.
So that, right there he's talking about how you can nourish the hindrances, or how you can denourish the hindrances, and how you can nourish the 7 factors of awakening, and how one denourishes it. So he kind of presents both aspects of both, right there side by side.
Yeah. I was thinking of the nourishments and nutriments in terms of the sun's flesh, the flayed cow, the being pulled into a pit of coals and then being shot by arrows 100 times in the morning, 100 times at noon, 100 times at night. I mean, those are pretty stark images. But the Buddha also says that if this is if it's understood, like if you understand the nutriment of solid food or material food, that is enough to take one to anagami, to non-return. If one understands the nutriment of contact, that's enough to take one to arahantship. If one understands the nutriment of volitional thought, it's enough to take one to arahantship. If one understands the nutriment of consciousness, it's enough to take one to arahantship, full liberation. So it's he's not just sort of leaving you kind of boiled and stabbed.
It's also refers to like this, you know, if you understand nutriment, you understand the six sense basis, and that's the context.
Yeah.
You understand contact, it's feeling.
Yes.
So there's very specific recommendations.
Yeah, these are leading one to insights into the things that do entangle us. Yeah, the volitional thought. We understand the three forms of desire. If you understand consciousness, you understand that whole play of nama rupa, of name and form, of body and mind.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I was thinking too. Because it seemed like he was talking about ahara, which is nutriment in the sun's flesh context.
Right.
And,
And also it's like the Buddha highlighting how desirable it is, the insight into these, like if my experience now in feeling in contact is like being a flayed cow or like getting stabbed by spears, but I don't realize that because I've been in it my whole life, I've been in it all the time. And then the comparison being, it's like having that suffering stop, then it's, that's an incredibly desirable sort of insight.
Yeah, and that's actually kind of what I felt like was like maybe a little bit of the missing piece of you see sometimes like samadhi is for the purpose of yathabhuta jnana dasana. So it's like you have this nourishing samadhi and then you direct it back at the nature of this is really a painful experience that we're experiencing. And that, it's kind of tying it back together.
Yeah, it has to be tied together.